coming up on The World Today. A family of the Belarusian journalist recently detained by authorities believe his recent TV confession was forced. Silence on the 32nd anniversary of the 1989 Beijing massacre as authorities clamp down on activities to mark the day. Plus, the World Health Organization warns of failure unless rich countries speed up vaccine sharing. Welcome to the program today. I'm Amarachi Ubani. We'll begin with news just in Nigeria about the federal government putting a ban on Twitter in the country. The federal government had earlier today announced that it was banning Twitter in Nigeria. This may be linked to the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, announcing the suspension in a statement issued today, citing the persistent use of the platform activities that are capable of undermining Nigeria's corporate existence. The minister said the federal government has also directed the National Broadcasting Commission to immediately commence the process of licensing all OTT and social media operations in Nigeria. Let's discuss this. Our correspondent, Channels Television correspondent Victor Matthias is joining us now on the program. Victor, thank you. And I know this is breaking news, so we're still learning, the details, also learning, how this would impact. But what are your initial thoughts on this? First of all, how this impacts, on free speech and, Nigeria in general, and how soon this ban, takes effect in the country.
Well, so let me begin with the last question, how soon it begins in the country. So like you said, the process has begun. The NBC and the NCC will begin the process. What this means is they're going to blacklist the web address, that's www.twitter.com in Nigeria. So all internet service providers, all telecommunication network providers, they're all going to blacklist the site. So that way, even if you log on to the platform, you can't be able to connect. And this means so much, it has a lot of repercussions. It means loss of jobs for a lot of young Nigerians. It means loss of the means of communication. It means loss of a way of pretty much, watering down or being happy with all of the things that are happening in the country. Twitter is somewhere that a lot of people go there, not just to get their information. They go there for jokes. They go there for so many things. So this ban on Twitter is going to take its toll so much on Nigerians. Free speech, yes. This is also going to be, let me put it quote unquote, like a violation of the free speech of so many people, because we've been talking about digital rights in this country for so many years, and then this is happening. This is a setback to trying to attain or even achieve digital rights for a lot of people. And that, of course, will also affect free speech. And I mean, this is going to take its toll on so many young Nigerians, because this is where a lot of people make their daily bread from. This is where a lot of people go to get their mental state in the right corner. So it's actually going to take a lot of toll on a lot of people. But that is not to say, Amarachi, that people cannot log on to Twitter. I mean, we have what is called the VPN. So with a VPN, you can actually be able to remotely connect to Twitter without being able, without the authorities locating your location and what platform you are connecting to a particular site from.
Yeah, Victor, thank you, for clearing that up, the implications and so on, because one important thing that you mentioned was how much businesses would be lost, because a lot of people do depend on Twitter, these social media platforms, to advertise their businesses. So what other alternatives, apart from Twitter at this point, can Nigerians latch onto? Because, well, you didn't talk about free speech much, but the problem really is for people to have an avenue to express themselves. So in the event that, Twitter, which moves faster than lightning most times, what other alternatives can they have? And how else can they protect themselves on social media from the government clampdown?
Well, so one of the things that I think would come into play now is because Twitter had only a limited number of characters when you were typing, and so we have what is called social fatigue. On Facebook and Instagram, you have the ability or the freedom, to perhaps write in a longer form. Twitter gave people that ability to put their thoughts in a very brief but concise manner. So now the alternative would have to be the platforms that were available before Twitter came on board, which is Facebook, which is Instagram, and whatnot. You can also, for those who are doing businesses, they can also continue their businesses. And I am very sure that those who were doing businesses on Twitter were also doing their businesses. They were also advertising on those other platforms. They were actually working, hand in hand. The people didn't really just stay focused on Twitter. So they were also putting their thoughts and their businesses on Instagram as well as Facebook. What this actually just means is that people will have to fall back to what is available. As they say, when the preferable is not available, the available becomes preferable.
Yeah, and I know that Twitter, let's talk about the impact this would have on Twitter itself, not having access to the Nigerian market, because millions of Nigerians do make use of Twitter. So talk about that.
Well, Amarachi, I mean, there is no business that will get shut down in Nigeria that would not feel the impact. Nigeria, one, has the numbers, and the numbers translate into the market, and the market translates into the coins. I mean, you can't operate a business anywhere in the world. If you have noticed in recent times, big investors have been investing in Nigerian companies, fintech, edtech, all of the techs that we have. So Nigeria is a key market for any business globally. So to have your business and your operations shut down in Nigeria, it's actually a big hit. But that is not to say that Twitter will not survive. I mean, they have their head office in our near neighbors, Ghana, and also Ghana also has a large number of people who use Twitter on a daily basis. They would feel the impact for a bit while they try to make inroads in other places. But I think that they would feel the impact. But I believe that they would be smart enough. I mean, they would have seen this coming because they took down the president's tweets twice. So it is something that they should have seen coming. And I want to believe that they were smart enough to make what would I call a contingency plan just in case, this happened. But if in case they didn't see it coming and then it comes, well, I believe that, like they say, when desperate measures is what you bring when you have desperate times. So definitely Twitter might find a way to, make their business continue to thrive in Africa without Nigeria. It just means that Nigeria will be lagging behind because economically our youth will be at danger. I mean, they would risk all of the income. We just, like I mentioned, Twitter is in Ghana, so they offered jobs to so many Africans, and they offered jobs to Nigerians also remotely. Yeah. So what happens to all those people that would have been working for Twitter remotely in Nigeria without moving to Ghana? That means they can't work because automatically, if Twitter is down, their business, their workflow won't go. Influencers, those who we call influencers on Twitter, can't influence anything. Those who have businesses on Twitter can also put out their businesses for people to see, and people who go to Twitter, to get their daily consumption of news. I mean, imagine the number of people who are commuting now, Amarachi. This is traffic time. People are commuting from Victoria Island, to Ikoyi.
There is a lot of information you can actually read from Twitter. You're talking about the traffic. A lot of people do monitor the traffic via Twitter. Thank you.
Exactly.
So a lot of things, and more questions are popping in my head, as I'm talking to you, the backlash this would have, on the job market, there's so much, to discuss. Victor, thank you so much. And I know that this story is still unfolding. We're still learning, what Twitter's response will be to this and the federal government's rebuttal. But thank you again, for coming very quickly to speak about this. Victor Matthias, our tech correspondent. Thank you. Now to Belarus, where family of Roman Protasevich, the journalist who was arrested a couple of weeks ago for appeared in an interview recently, granted his family thinks that it was done under duress. As 26-year-old Protasevich made a tearful appearance on state TV on Thursday, praising President Alexander Lukashenko and admitting that he attempted to topple his government. In the video, he said that though he had criticized the president a lot, he began to understand that what he was doing wrong and that the president was doing the right thing, and he now respects him. At the end of the interview, he burst into tears and said he hoped one day to marry and have children. His father later told news media it pained him to watch the interviews. His son, he knows his son very well, He would never say such things. He believes they broke his son and forced him to say what was needed. He asked that no one believe the words spoken as they were beaten out, gotten through abuse and torture. Supporting Protasevich from afar is fellow activist and opposition leader Svetlana Tsikhanouskaya, who thinks the US, the UK and the European Union should act jointly to put more pressure on the Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko and his government. A comment comes during a one-day visit to Warsaw, Poland, ahead of the G7 summit in Britain next week. She says the Belarusian government has become more concerned about security since the Ryanair incident, but that it would not deter opposition activists from carrying out their work.
But I have to say that pressure is more powerful when countries are acting jointly. And we are calling on this UK, the USA, European Union, Ukraine have to act jointly so their voice will be more loud. I think that everybody's in danger now, but we have to move forward.
More so in danger since what happened with the plane with Roman.
It's the 32nd anniversary of the Tiananmen Square crackdown, and Hong Kong authorities are not allowing any commemorations of the day. Hours earlier, the government arrested pro-democracy activist Chow Hang-tong, who usually organizes annual vigils for victims of the Beijing deadly crackdown in 1989.
Chow Hang-tong's arrest, the vice chairman of the Hong Kong's Alliance in support of Patriotic Democratic Movements of China, comes as thousands of police are expected to patrol the city's streets to prevent people from gathering.
It's actually a weapon of mass destruction for Hong Kong, I would say. The government always criticizes us, the activists, the pro-democracy camp for destabilizing Hong Kong. I think it's the government, it's the national security law that's destabilizing Hong Kong. It's destroying the environment of stability, of security that people have been living in. It's scaring people away from Hong Kong, scaring investment, even and economic development, all that.
The heightened vigilance from authorities is seen as a marked departure from the Hong Kong's cherished freedoms of speech and assembly, bringing the global financial hub closer in line with mainland China's strict controls on society. Senior Superintendent Law Kwok Hoi confirmed police arrested a 36-year-old member of the Alliance and a 20-year-old food delivery man for promoting an unauthorized assembly. It did not name the arrestees as per its usual practice.
Earlier this morning, on the 4th of June, police arrested a 20-year-old male and a 36-year-old female for the offense of advertise or publicize an unauthorized assembly because they were found to have used the social media accounts to advertise or publicize a public meeting that had been prohibited by the police.
In the meantime, the authorities have closed off a large swath of city's Victories Park for the first time in 32 years. Police have banned the annual vigil that has taken place here in years past, citing the coronavirus. But some say they still plan to visit the park and pay their respect to those who perished in the protests.
As you all know, that you can see what happened in the past 2 years, that Hong Kong experienced new challenges.
At the University of Hong Kong's campus, dozens of students cleaned the Pillar of Shame, a sculpture devoted to victims of the crackdown. They observed a moment of silence and laid flowers in front of the sculpture. China has never released the death toll of the June 4 event, but estimates from human rights groups and witnesses range from several hundred to several thousand.
We have more coming up on The World Today. Plus, South Korean industrial designer may have a solution for people who are addicted to their phones. Well, stay with us for this one. Well, Welcome back to The World Today. Let's shift gears now to the United States as the White House defends the president's top infectious disease expert and coronavirus advisor, Anthony Fauci, amid security scrutiny of his recently released work emails. And one of them, sent last April, an executive at a health charity thanked Dr. Fauci for publicly stating that scientific evidence does not support the lab leak theory. Meanwhile, President Joe Biden's administration has announced will be administering and distributing 25 million vaccine doses of coronavirus to the WHO's COVAX vaccine program and to its allies. Our correspondent Maria Bird reports.
They're a bit off, but I think there's no...
The United States announces that they plan to share 25 million COVID-19 vaccines globally.
So just a couple of highlights from that. First, having successfully secured enough vaccine supply for Americans, we're donating surplus U.S. vaccine supply and encouraging other countries with surplus supplies to do the same. The President has announced a U.S. commitment to sharing a total of 80 million doses by the end of June. So that's 25 million doses that will go out as soon as possible, very quickly. A number of those are going to even go out as soon as today. And that is 5 times the number of doses any other country has committed to sharing and 13% of the total vaccines produced by the United States by the end of this month. Second, we're working with vaccine manufacturers to vastly increase vaccine supply for the rest of the world in a way that can also create jobs here at home. So we have all these manufacturers who have facilities that will enable us to continue to produce additional supply even beyond so that we can provide that to the rest of the world. We will also work with our partner nations and pharmaceutical companies and other manufacturers to create the kind of global vaccine production and manufacturing capacity and capabilities that can not only help the world beat this pandemic, but also helps prepare the world to respond to future threats.
This announcement comes as the U.S. global community puts pressure on the U.S. to share vaccines.
Our overarching aim is to get as many safe and effective vaccines to as many people as fast as possible. It's as simple as that. We're sharing them in a wide range of countries within Latin America and the Caribbean, South and Southeast Asia, and across Africa in coordination with the African Union. This includes prioritizing our neighbors here in our hemisphere. And as the President has said, the United States will not use its vaccines to secure favors from other countries.
The United States has also lifted some restrictions to enable countries to easily purchase U.S.-made supplies for vaccine production. From Washington, Maria Bird, Channel Television News.
Maria joins us now for more. Maria, what could be behind the president's decision to distribute these vaccines? I mean, the United States government has gone through so much trouble paying millions of dollars to acquire these vaccines before many countries ever were able to procure them.
Thank you, Amarachi. Yes, it is clear that the president is trying to make a clear statement here. We know that the president has said time and time again that once the U.S. was able to get on its footing and get to a place where we are vaccinating now, over 50% of the population has been vaccinated, and we are well on our way to seeing 70%. And it's not an issue of availability of vaccines at this time. It's really a possibility of being able to ensure that every American trusts in the vaccine process. So now that that has been established, he believes that it is vital that the whole world is vaccinated to ensure that the world economy is able to come back up and running and that we're able to have healthy relations across the globe. And so we know that travel restrictions are in place. We know that it's very hard for Americans and those overseas to be able to travel back and forth through various countries. So he believes this is going to be a way that the U.S. can play a role in helping to end the pandemic across the world.
You mentioned a very important word, and that's trust in the vaccines. I know many Americans are still very skeptical about, receiving the COVID-19 vaccine. So how much further has the government gone with the vaccinations?
Well, the government is now in a place where they are offering lottery tickets, they're offering gift cards, they're offering all types of incentives to Americans to get them to a place where they are trusting the vaccine. And it's at a place now where we're hoping to get to 70%. I think the goal was sometime around the July 4th holiday. And so that is where the big push to have incentives in place to try to lure people in to trust in the vaccine. There's been all types of public service announcements. You've had community leaders, you've had local celebrities, really pushing the message to say, listen, this is something you can trust. And we are now looking at even the younger populations being eligible. Now it's anyone 12 and older is eligible for the vaccine. And they are hopeful by the end of the year, even those as young as 6 months from a year old will be able to be vaccinated as well.
Yeah, and let's talk about Anthony Fauci's emails. And I'm wondering why anybody really is interested in them. They were leaked out, and we learned, the theory of the coronavirus he believes did not originate from a lab in Wuhan. So what else does it say, about the coronavirus, the origins perhaps, and of course how much longer we need to live with this virus?
Well, the emails, I think there was a lot of conversation around whether or not Dr. Fauci was cozy with the organization that backed a lot of the research for the Wuhan lab. And so I think that is really what he was trying to dispel, that myth that this was not about a cozy relationship. This is really about, as you said before, trying to identify. The U.S. government has for several years now, prior even to the Trump administration, back when Susan Rice was in office under President Obama, they had a clear outset and a plan to address pandemics. It was suspected that we would have the coronavirus pandemic and that there would be another pandemic coming down the pike. And so this was something I think that the U.S. government has for a long time, and we know that Dr. Fauci has been in his position throughout many administrations in the U.S. government and has been studying diseases for quite some time. So this was something that the U.S. was not sure when it would hit, but they knew that a pandemic at some time in the near future was going to be possible for the U.S. with or without the Wuhan lab and the leak theory.
Maria, I want to ask you if you've taken the vaccine, and I want to ask you which one you took, but just stay safe, okay? Thanks again for joining us.
I am vaccinated, so I'm thankful for that, but we're still watching the variances, but we can do the most that we can.
Right. Do stay safe all the same. Thanks again.
Bye-bye.
In the meantime, the World Health Organization senior advisor has warned that wealthy countries need to give more COVID-19 vaccines, and for the United States is making those available to cover a 200 million dose gap caused by Indian supply disruptions and manufacturing delays. Warning of a two-track recovery, the WHO is warning healthy countries to donate their surplus doses to poorer countries instead of giving them to less vulnerable groups such as children. They so far donated 150 million doses via the COVAX sharing scheme.
Now, we had a great start yesterday with the U.S. announcing it's going to contribute up to 80 million doses, and it gave the first 25 million doses that it would be donating, 75% of that through COVAX yesterday. That's an important start. We need many other countries to be joining, and importantly for the U.S., right, crucially, is they said these doses are going to come in June. We expect a lot of big contracts that we have, contracted volumes. We expect India SII's volumes to open up again in the fourth quarter at least, right? Which means all of that's going to arrive at the same time. Countries are going to fail unless they get vaccines early to start rolling out, building community confidence, building their systems. You know how it all works, right? But we're setting up for failure if we don't get early doses.
And as we end the program, do you find yourself falling over obstacles on the streets as your eyes are glued to your smartphone? This common problem for many smombies or smartphone zombies may be solved by wearing an extra eye to help alert users of objects ahead. Well, not my words, but that of industrial designer Peng Ming Wook. A 28-year-old has developed a robotic eyeball he has dubbed the third eye, which obsessive mobile phone users can strap to their forehead so they can browse injury-free and on the go. Just think about it. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani.